Hi there. So, this might be a fully unedited video if it gets super long because my phone sucks. Um, but today I thought I would do something that's a little bit of a mix between a 5 month testosterone update and also just opening up about like my mental health journey a little bit because I'm in a really interesting place right now where a year ago was very different from where I'm at today. So I want to get some housekeeping stuff out of the way. I am 5 months on T now. It's been a month now that I have been on a higher dose, so I'm now on 100 milligrams weekly. I started off on 100 milligrams biweekly intramuscular testosterone. It's been going great. I did not experience a whole lot of changes personally going at a higher dose. If anything, I feel calmer, happier. Um, I do feel like my changes are picking up in pace. I've got a couple of long dark hairs starting on my chin now. My voice is definitely starting to change. I've got some more hair on my body that's spreading out, getting darker, starting to change. And certainly, I'm starting to size out of certain clothes, particularly longer sleeved stuff. I am finally sizing out of stuff. Because muscle, it's funny, there's some shirts that like muscle just don't give. It don't give. I have some shirts that I was able to fit them at my highest weight where I was a little chunky, and I can't fit them now because my biceps are just pushing up against them and it hurts. Is there anything else? Bottom growth has continued, and I think it's picking up pace a little bit now, which I like. The only thing I've run into is I started to get hives. And I don't get hives. I don't get anything. I don't get any sort of allergy thing almost ever. So I was actually shocked that I had any Benadryl in my any sort of antihistamine at all because I never need them. I'm a weirdly healthy person, especially considering all the stuff that I've been through. But it took a lot of trial and error, but I've basically figured out that I think possibly because I've always had keratosis pilaris on my arms, which is a dry skin condition. And even though my face has gotten slightly oilier on T, I think my skin on my arms is flaring up, probably from hormone fluctuations. And basically, I cannot take a shower after I work out. I can't. The more intense the workout, the worse it's going to be. But I pretty much always get it if I take a shower too soon after I work out. So it doesn't seem to be heat. I was able to go out on a hike the other day. Literally yesterday, I basically had 3 different workouts pretty much, and I took a shower hours after I was done being active, and I was fine. And there's something about like my sweat and stuff, and then the water stripping my skin. I have tried not using any soap. I have tried different temperatures of water. It doesn't matter because water is actually a skin irritant. Fun fact. It's a very mild one, but it strips your skin of its like oils and stuff. So I think possibly maybe the pH of my sweat is changing. Maybe it's not my body's favorite thing. And then on top of that, stripping any moisture off of it too soon is just too much for my skin. So basically, I just have to be a recumbent king after I work out and relax, which I don't mind. That's the only like negative thing at all. Honestly, I had a little bit of moodiness the first couple months, but actually on a higher dose, I feel like really chilled out. And that's probably because my life is looking up in general, which I'm going to get into, and the fact that I have a very dedicated exercise regimen that gets all that angst out. But I would definitely recommend, if anything, just to help your mental health. Some movement. It doesn't have to be what I do because I'm like trying to gain muscle and stuff. But let's talk a little bit about mental health and gender dysphoria and the chicken and the egg, and also just in general opening up a little bit about where I've been if you don't know me very well, because I had a video where I talked a lot about this stuff and it had to be deleted because a bunch of transphobes found it and were just twisting all my words and being fucking annoying. So before I say anything about this stuff, I want you to know, before you, if you're sitting there taking notes about like, this is why you are the way you are, you dumb bitch, I did the thing. I'm going to be 27 in a few months. I treated every other mental health issue I had before seeking medical help to transition. And I'm here to tell you it was a waste of fucking time, tears, and a lot of money. And also, most of my issues, a good chunk of them, and especially the ones that are the most expensive, like my eating disorder, were recurring and I was probably never going to achieve full long-term eating disorder recovery if I didn't go on hormones, because I was in the wrong fucking body. And I know some people don't like that terminology, but I feel like it applies to me in my case. So before you're like, tippity typey, that's why you think you're a man, is because you're mentally fucking ill. Chicken, egg, shut up. The treatment's the same. Persistent gender dysphoria, whether you want to call it that or not, because I know that's kind of a contentious word right now, or terminology, treatment's the same. So yes, I'm also not an immature idiot who, if I decide one day that I am not happy with the changes that I have had, I will fully accept that I was a person who was fully informed of everything that would happen and took the risk of doing something that has permanent changes. And I'm not gonna go grift over to the other side of the political spectrum just so that people pat me on the back for being a fucking detransitioner. Anyways, I just love how detransitioners want to make their irresponsibility our problem. Anyways, so all that aside, me being sassy, I'm really happy. So if you don't know me, here is my story. If you're gonna twist it around and throw it back in my face to say that I'm just a mentally ill clown who doesn't know anything about myself, even though I've spent my entire life working on myself to get to this point, I'm going to delete your comment because I don't care. But if you don't know me, I was born into a family that was stable and loving, but we were in a religious environment that has very accurately been compared to cults. Yeah. And it was very, very, very unhealthy for me. In fact, looking back on it now, I probably had at some point diagnosable religious tied OCD behaviors as a child that, you know, I didn't tell anyone about, so it was untreated. But I had incredibly severe anxiety attached to the religion. And other than that, until I was 8 or 9, I was pretty happy and stable. I had attachment issues and I had trouble making friends, but I knew where I was happiest, which was out on the farm that we lived on, out in nature, and I could just do that and be fine at the end of the day, even if it was a hard day. I experienced some abuse starting from a pretty young age, and it set me up to be very vulnerable to similar people as a teenager, especially because I had untreated anxiety and depression that, especially once I became a teenager, was just getting worse, especially as I was getting involved with these shitty people who messed with my self-esteem even more. And then my mom passed away in a freak car accident when I was 14. And what a lot of people didn't know was that before she even passed away, my untreated depression, mostly, because I struggled a lot more with depression than anxiety as a teenager, had gotten so severe that not only had I been self-harming for years, I had dabbled in eating disorder behaviors, but thank God it had never stuck into something more permanent. Not only had I been suicidal for years, but actually at that point, before my mom even passed away, I was starting to experience major depressive disorder with psychotic features. So I had really severe delusions, mostly very severe delusions that were very embarrassing looking back on it now. And my mom was like my best friend. Losing her was hard. Anytime I talk about it, people are really sweet. And I always try to tell them I had 14 whole years with her. Some people don't get that many. You know, she was an awesome person. I still wish she could have met me as I am now. But like, I still had a lot of great time with her. But losing her in that way with no warning was obviously really, really traumatic. I probably already had CPTSD at that point, but that was a big, huge capital T. I pretty much dissociated for 3 months and was just gone. And then I spent the rest of eighth grade, which is the final year of middle school before you go into high school here in the States, being the kid who was in and out of the psych ward, and everyone knew it. I had an episode at school that was very violent and scary, and involved me shrieking at the top of my lungs and an ambulance being called and me being restrained and sedated. That actually led to me being expelled. And it was a temporary expulsion. I could have come back to that school, but we decided to move me schools. So freshman year of high school, I had to start a brand new school. At this point, I already knew I was queer. I came out as bisexual when I was only 13. I had managed to slowly push myself into a more independent state where I could more look the way I wanted to, and my family understood that I wasn't trying to be bad. I just liked clothes, so I was like an emo kid and stuff. I mean, I was into all sorts of alternative clothes, but you could mostly read me as an emo kid because of my hair. But yeah, I already knew that I was bisexual, regularly dated girls. I was either in a relationship with a girl or a grown man most of the time, unfortunately. A young grown man, like 18 and 20. I went through a hypersexual phase from some of my traumas where I was doing very risky things just to feel anything at all, and to feel a sense of worth and value. I met a man who would really, really affect my self-esteem for a long time, who was a very, very scary person, who it was a fight to get away from it all. It was pretty scary. And then I mean, I even had a self-harm incident in school that everyone thought I was trying to kill myself. So then I was also known as the kid who tried to kill themselves at school, which, like, no, excuse me. When I did do that, it was comfortable in my own bathroom, not the gross girls' bathroom at high school. Thank you very much. So it was a chaotic, terrible life. And particularly from the time I was 14 to 16, it was a big question of, am I even going to make it? I did spend 3 days completely unconscious and unresponsive in a children's hospital. Too late to pump my stomach full of all the pills that I had taken. And barely survived that. After that, I was like, there's a reason that I didn't die, because I really honestly should have. And I saw what it did to my family when I was recovering in the hospital, and I was like, I'm not allowed to do that again. You were unsuccessful. That was your one try. Never again. And I've gotten close quite a few times, but I've never truly attempted since. Once I was 16, I went back into denial about my childhood trauma, and just tried to be a teenager and catch up on my grades that had been failing. I was top of the class, extremely smart. I'm very, very academically talented. I was a competitive singer in high school, and I just collapsed into myself and lost all my academics and everything. And but yeah, I spent like 16 to 17 really just trying to catch up on life and pretend like everything was fine. And honestly, that was how I feel now. I have not been as happy and stable as I have since then. Because briefly, it was effective. And then eventually the lid's gonna blow. And it did. And it was bad. And my mental health became very critical again when I was 18. And because I was like very med phobic at the time, I was just not open to taking medication, even though I was terrified of myself. And the point, because I was particularly having what I understand now to be emotional flashbacks. I always felt, back in the day, PTSD was like so specifically portrayed in media and stuff that I half the time told myself I didn't actually have it, because I didn't have like hallucination levels of flashbacks. But I had severe emotional flashbacks that led to me punching myself a lot, punching walls, really severe, dangerous self-harm that I never got medical attention for. Luckily, I just have a really good immune system and never got a deep, deep infection. And I was completely out of control, and I ended up using an eating disorder to control it. I tried to starve it out of myself, basically, so that I was too weak to have these terrifying emotional flashbacks. And before you know it, it's been months and you're still doing the same thing, and then it's been a year, and now you don't have those freakouts anymore, but now you can't act like not a weirdo around food. And your life is shrinking, and what you're able to eat is shrinking, and you're shrinking, and your personality and your soul, everything's shrinking. People are leaving. Like, yep. So I started college and didn't even make it a full semester before I had to take a bunch of incompletes and go to eating disorder treatment. Eating disorder treatment was the hardest time of my life, honestly. And I understand now that I kind of have some, like, and I don't use this lightly, I have like some medical trauma from around that time. Basically, they told me, they were like, we see people every day with really severe anxiety disorders, because it's a very, very common comorbidity with eating disorders, especially anorexia, which is what I struggled with and still live with. And they were like, you have a really bad anxiety disorder. Like, we see these all the time. It's bad. We really, really think you should consider getting on some medication. And they convinced me to. And I think they interpreted me as a lot more med-phobic than I even was at that point. And they did not give me anything as needed for what I was going through. I had just uprooted my whole life, given up all of my coping skills, including smoking, because I was also a cigarette smoker at the time, and I agreed to quit while I was there. So on top of that, I'm also going through that, and they did not give me any, not even like the ones that are like a propranolol that just like puts a lid on your heart rate, or whatever that one is that's just an antihistamine that makes you sleepy. They didn't give me any of that. They didn't give me anything like Xanax or clonazepam. I'm prescribed clonazepam now. I only use it once a year, but when I need it, I need it. It's serious. Learned that the hard way last year. And they didn't give me anything as needed. They put me on an SSRI that I would find out years later, when I went off of it and went back on it again, that it actually makes it worse before it makes it better. It makes you more anxious, more tense, more volatile, in a not towards other people, but in yourself, more chaotic, more tense, which is terrible when you're already severely anxious. So yeah, I ripped out huge chunks of hair, had like a massive bald spot in the back of my head, almost passed out in Target from hyperventilating on my hands and knees, collapsed on the floor on one of our outings when we were grabbing toiletries. And they just were like, yeah, one of our patients just losing their shit as per usual, instead of maybe giving me something a little extra just for, a week or two. Low doses, like what I take now, clonazepam, even though it's Klonopin, it's strong. I can take it for a week and be fine, and I don't do that. I only take it like a day or two until I feel better these days, because I'm so like, I don't want to use it unless I need it. But if there was a time in my life that I needed it, it was then. So bad. There, all that new food coming into your body and that extra food, as you build up the calories, you have more energy, and there's more energy available to go into that anxiety. And I just needed a lot more intensive therapy focused on my generalized anxiety disorder, and I needed some extra medication help, and I didn't have it. It was a very hard time. But that is when I figured out my gender stuff, because I had I knew about things, and I thought about things sometimes, but towards the end of treatment, we had this worksheet that we all passed around, and I told this story in the video that's unlisted now, but it was talking about different body parts, like curves, hips, blah blah blah, that a lot of times people with eating disorders that are focused on making themselves smaller can struggle with. They were hips make me think of blank, and fill it in. And then one of the last questions was, the kind of woman I want to be is, and I just said no. And everyone just kind of laughed and was like, tee hee, because a lot of times, especially with anorexia, sometimes you're trapping yourself in prepubescence, and it's a refusal to grow up because you can't, because you're stuck in a traumatized state. Very, very common. And so it was relatable, even from a non-gendered perspective, from everyone else. But I really thought about it, that night, and I was like, why did I say that? Because it wasn't that. And by the end of my stay at the treatment center, I started telling people that I met and stuff, even just online, that I wasn't really a girl. And that's all I said about it in the beginning. But by the end of, and this was 2016, by the end of 2016, I came out as not binary. There was a whole year that was just learning how to fucking eat again. Not when someone's watching you, not when someone's making your food all the time. Learning how to eat when you just went through a fucking breakup. Learning how to eat when your abuser is getting married and you didn't know about it and you just found out about it today, and someone you really love and care about is going to the wedding. Your grandpa just died. You know, learning how to eat when it sucks. When you aren't fucking hungry and you haven't been hungry for a week. Like, for a month. For months. Because that's honestly how it is the first year. Oh my god. It truly, especially this time around, I realized it really is like a year for me to start to feel normal at all. And then I was just stuck. I didn't get a job until I was 23. It sucks. I'm embarrassed about it. I shouldn't be, because when my friends tell me stuff like that, I'm like, dude, it's fine. Life's hard. You know, whatever. Didn't move out until I was 23. Earlier in 23. Or maybe 22. I have struggled to hold healthy relationships. When I was going through cosmetology school, so that's around the time that that's around the time that I moved out. So I was 22-ish, 21, 22. I don't know. It's hard to remember. It's been a crazy few years. When I went to cosmetology school, I was the trans kid. At that time, I started to use more he, him pronouns versus they, them, and I was dressing the part. I was looking the way I was supposed to every day, and I really wanted to go on testosterone. My dad said he couldn't financially support me with that, and I was like, fine, that's okay. I tried to get insurance coverage, could not. They were like, fuck you, because it was a small city insurance at the time, and was basically in a situation where all I could do was try to get a job to support myself, and I couldn't get hired anywhere because I had no hiring skills. Luckily, cosmetology school taught me a lot about work ethic and stuff like that, so I was able to get a job once I graduated. I do not do hair now. I discovered eventually that I hate doing hair. But, so yeah, all that time, struggled with self-harm off and on, struggled with toxic relationships, struggled with sometimes binge drinking, especially if I was suicidal, and sometimes being dangerous, and being up and down. My eating disorder started creeping back into my life towards the end of cosmetology school, especially because within that year, after I graduated cosmetology school, I would go through the two big assaults that I went through as an adult. One was someone I dated who I should have never been involved with, and there were plenty of red flags, but one of them was also a very long-term friend of mine, and I didn't see it coming at all. And so that really kind of cemented a slow tiptoe back into restriction. And it was very, very, very slow. It was so minute and tiny. And then COVID happened. And that really kind of put the nail in the coffin. And during COVID, I definitely had a solid relapse into straight up anorexia. And I didn't see it. I thought I was being a little food rigid. I thought, I just have a fast metabolism. It's fine. Sure. You can't eat anything normal at all, but yeah, sure. And then this time last year, I decided I was done. I decided I had spent so much of my life being the sick one, being the one that we don't know if he's gonna make it. I was tired. And I wanted a life to look forward to. And I wasn't sure what that looked like, if that involved maybe like a long-term partner or living with a friend one day or something. I don't want to live alone forever. I do really like living alone, but I don't want to forever. And I was like, I want to be a tolerable person to live with. I want to be someone that's fun to go get food with, I want to be free. So I started eating more because I knew I needed to gain some weight back. I still had some more I needed to gain. I'd stabilized myself once it got kind of sketchy over COVID, but I was not where I know that I should be as a grown person. As a growing man now. So I started eating more, and guess what came back? The severe anxiety. So this time last year, this morning on Snapchat, there's going to be a picture that'll probably be the thumbnail. I was spending every day at work having panic attacks and crying in the bathroom. And I'm talking about full body adrenaline rush panic attacks. And I think it was probably tomorrow a year ago that I had to go to the mental hospital for the first time as an adult. My anxiety was so severe that I was suicidal for days on end. And the person I was speaking to at the time, we were seeing each other, he was really scared for me. So he got me to go. And I wish I could go back in time and be like, take your clonazepam, because I was not taking it. I wasn't taking it. I wasn't taking my as needed anxiety medicine. I just kept being really stubborn about it. Wait, no, I did. I started taking half of them, and when I was being discharged, they were like, you should have taken more. You need to be more proactive. This is a safe medication. You know how to take it. You know how to stop taking it. It's prescribed to you for a reason. Please use it to prevent this from happening. But I also used that as an opportunity to really increase my calories up fast and introduce a lot of foods that I hadn't eaten for a long time. And while I was surrounded by doctors and stuff, so if my eating disorder was like, if you eat too much too fast, you'll get sick or whatever, which can happen, but I was well above that concern at that point, both weight-wise and how much I was eating. It would have been fine. And I proved it to myself. I was like, well, if something happens, there are doctors here. They can watch out for me. And by the time I got home, I was ready to really, because people do not understand how much fucking food it takes to heal from anorexia. Oh my God, it was very expensive. Even when I got home, and I was being so cheap with it too. Listen, there was a lot of McDonald's Happy Meals. I was trying to save money, okay? So I gained the fat back. Woo! The body fat that I needed within a couple months. And it's been up and down. You know, I got kind of broke over the winter, lost some weight, worked on gaining it back. And what's crazy is, you know, this time last year, I was terrified of everything. And I woke up, you know, a year later, and I am, how much? I'm about 10 pounds heavier. I could gain some more, but I'm very, very healthy where I'm at. And I'm working on building muscle, and my body's changing a lot anyways. About 10 pounds healthier, 5 months on testosterone. I did that myself, you know, I go to these appointments myself. I advocated for myself and the care that I needed, and I'm doing it, paying for it myself, you know, paying for all my bills myself, finally, no help at all. It's just me in this apartment working hard at my day job. And I get little anxiety spikes here and there, but it's really manageable. I'm over a year self-harm free, well over a year, and the last time I did, I was very drunk, and I knew I shouldn't have drank because I'd been dumped, and I knew it was going to end bad. So I count that as like a mental health relapse and not really necessarily a self-harm one, because I would not have done that sober. So it's been even longer when you consider that like a sober relapse. Over a year since I decided to recover from my eating disorder again. I'm strong enough now that I can do up to 2 full body weight pull-ups. I can do up to 12 proper push-ups, full push-ups, and I do 3 sets of those. So I bust it out. At least, actually, I do more when I'm doing my dumbbell stuff. I have graduated to 30-pound dumbbells for my pull days, and that's like a fourth of my body weight, so that's pretty good. I can't do the splits yet. That's kind of what started me being active. I got into yoga first, and then when I went on testosterone, I switched so I got into yoga first and then calisthenics because I found that I liked feeling strong. I understand now that I actually have really bad strength dysphoria, and I have nightmares about being like really weak and tiny. And I always have. Yeah, feeling strong is amazing. I really didn't think I was going to get to be able to do a full pull-up. What's funny is my back is so much stronger than the rest of my body because I work way harder on my pull days, that I find pull-ups way easier than chin-ups. Yeah. I'm not afraid anymore. It felt like I was never going to get here, you know. It's been 12 years since my mom passed away, And 12 years since that, it felt like part of me got up out of bed and asked my dad, okay, what do we need to do? With a completely stoic face. And then the other half of me died in that bed. And it probably did. But, man, little me would be so proud of me. Unsurprisingly from all of that too, I have really severe driving anxiety. And even my best friend commented, because I drove us to a park to go hike yesterday. They were like, you're really comfortable behind the wheel now. And now all I'm scared of is driving highways and particularly getting onto them and like switching lanes and stuff, which I plan on practicing this week. I also used to be really scared because my first abuser is directly related to me. It is not my father. My father's great. Love him to death. And yes, he's very, 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 very proud of me. Thank you very much. I am directly related to one of my abusers, and I was very scared that being on testosterone would cause me to see him in the mirror and cause me to freak out and hurt myself or just not be able to carry on. So it was very important for me to be in a stable mindset before I went on hormones. I don't feel like I look like him at all, and I don't think I'm going to, because we honestly favor different sides of our family anyways. And also, sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, shit, I'm the hot one. My voice is also cracking a lot. We have entered that stage. It's been making a lot of noise. I just had my 1 month checkup since my last increase. Yesterday? No. Yes, yesterday. So I'll find out my results soon. Hopefully I can stay on this dose because I'm a lot happier and I do feel like things are going well. I think just because I'm older and I still have my uterus, I'm not old, but I just don't think my levels are getting to where they need to be as fast. But I've definitely noticed a lot more increased progress. But I just want to say, dude, it does get better. And it's going to be so many little baby steps. So many little baby steps. I can't believe I'm now someone who works out 5 days a week and is getting stronger and stronger. And it just started because I got myself like mentally well enough and comfortable enough that I was like, you know what? I kind of want to like do a little bit of yoga here and there. And it just started with yoga. You know, a year ago, I made a decision that I wanted a better life and that I was done waiting on dying. And that if I was going to be alive, might as well do something with it, you know? And I've said that a million times, but it finally worked. And there's a lot of factors as to why it did. A lot of it has to do with financial stability, support from friends, cutting out toxic people, and just trying and trying again. But I do want to say that I don't think I was ever going to recover without going on testosterone. And I really hope that this isn't taken away from me. Because I don't know how well I don't know if I could maintain recovery. But I try not to think about that because boy, am I fucking happy with how things are right now. So I'm running out of space. I hope you have an amazing day. I will moderate the comments, but let me know if you have any questions, okay? Things get better. It takes a long fucking time. They just don't tell you how long, because maybe it would overwhelm you. But you're gonna learn a lot in the meantime. And if you need anything, I'm here. It's Judas. Goodbye.